Okay, so hey brothers, and welcome to the AVICII Producing Series, part 1 by me, Alex ST. You might wonder what this is. So, this is a new launched tutorial series that I've decided to create on my channel where I will go through some of my tips and tricks and what I use when I create music and getting it as close to Tim as possible. So the FLP of this will be available in the description as well as all my other and the song that I will use and the FLP I will work on is the new launched tribute, which is called Legend is Born. I encourage you to go check that out if you haven't done yet. And please pardon my English, I am not a native English speaker. So we will jump right into it. What I do when I start a song is I try to do the drop first, and in this case I already had a drop because, as you might know, the drop is based on a piano melody that Tim played on his Instagram before he passed, and it already has a melody and a chord progression, and in this episode I will talk about the verse, and in the second episode I will go through the pre-chorus and then the build-up and the drop, and then I will share some of my mixing techniques in separate videos. So what I did was I looked on the chord progression of the drop, and that's what I usually start because the drop is the key to the entire song. The song builds up by the drop. So this is the chord progression that we have on the drop. That's the chord progression for the drop. So I did not want to use the same chord progression for the verse because I want the verse to be a bit more separate. I decided to have the same chords as the drop on the pre-chorus, so that's the same, but I will come to that in a later episode, but so you guys just know. So what I ended up with is a numerous chord progressions that I could use on the verse, so I'll go through some of them. We have the typical 3-2-1, as I call it, chord progression that Tim is very famous for, and it sounds like this. You might recognize that chord pattern very well from many of his songs. Another chord progression that he is famous for is this one. Let me add that, of course, Tim did not create these melodies, he just used them. I mean the chord progression, sorry. He's just famous for using these specific chord progressions. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to use this 3-2-1 chord progression in the verse. But I wanted to tweak it a little bit because I wanted to make it more interesting. So I ended up with this. So it pretty much follows the 3-2-1, but I decided the second chord should go down with an A sharp chord, A sharp minor, in fact. So that's what I ended up with, and what this is good for, that it makes the transition over to the pre-chorus very smooth. It sounds like this. As you could tell, the transition was very smooth, so that's what I ended up with. And now you guys know how I made the chord progression for the verse. And please let me add that these techniques are not common for everyone. This is what I use, and you're free to use whatever method you want, but I just wanted to share how I made it since a lot of you guys have asked for it. So now we will just jump right into the FLP here and see what we got. So the first thing I did was I created a piano because Tim very often used pianos. So the first piano sounds like this. So it's quite simple. It is just regular chords up here with the D sharp minor, and then we have the lower octave here, and it's very important because you can feel it and it adds a bit to the song, but you can't really tell it's there unless you take it away. Then you will tell and notice that something is missing. So we have the lower octave here, and then we have the higher 2 octaves up. We have a chord, and then I wanted to stack it up with another piano. So in this case I skipped the lower octaves because we don't need too much of it. I decided to just keep it on the first piano. So then the third piano has a little bit different character, I'd say. It sounds like this. Now again with only the higher octave here. And combined, it sounds like this. Very smooth, very flat, and that is because of compression, which I will talk about in a later episode. Now, what I decided to do is to get some guitars there, because Tim is famous for combining guitars and other acoustic instruments with pianos and electronic synths. And as I like to create and record my own guitar, I can't really show you guys the MIDI files, but what I can show you is how the guitar sounds. So we have the first guitar here, which is like the bass guitar here, not the bass itself, but like the key to everything. But it sounded a little bit empty, so I wanted to add a finger play up front, so it sounds like this. And when you combine it, you get that really fat feeling of the guitar together with the finger guitar. It sounds like this. And when you combine it with the 3-layer piano, it adds up to this. So now you know what instruments I've used for the verse. I decided to keep it quite simple on the verse because I don't want to progress too much. That comes in the pre-chorus and the build-up and all that. I put the filter on the piano, and that is just to duck the sound so the vocals get better. Then, of course, after half of the verse, I added a hi-hat. Not too complicated, a riser, a swell, sorry. And in the meantime, the piano opens up and it gets to the pre-chorus here. And please pay attention to the transition here to the pre-chorus that I've talked about earlier. Very smooth, very good, and that is the verse. Now the second verse is a bit different because I wanted to spice some things up. So I added a synth here on top, here. So it sounds like this. Then after half the second verse, I decided to create a really cool AVICII vibey effect. And it consists of a top kick and a clap, and then some pianos on top of the regular piano with an arp. It sounds like this. As you can tell, it sounds very, very AVICII vibey, and Tim involved parts such as this in some songs. So what this is a piano like this. On top of the regular piano, obviously. Then we have the arp, which is very important here. With a high cut filter on. I will talk about the filter in later episodes. Then we have another synth here. As well, quite important, you can't really tell it's there, but if you take it away, you will feel that something is missing. Then we have the top kick and the clap, which together sounds like this. very nice together, and all together sounds like this. So basically that's what the verses consists of. Not too complicated if you know how to make it. Not too simple as well. The pre-chorus will be a bit more interesting and complicated, where more elements are introduced, and then the build-up and the drop. So I hope you enjoyed the first episode of this series, the AVICII Producing Series. Please let me know what you thought in the comments. Give me some feedback. This is the first episode. I'm not used to making these tutorials, but since so many of you guys have requested it, I feel like it was time to make it. Share this to the ones you know and the ones that might want to learn how to make music similar to Tim. And I hope you really appreciated this, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until that, please take care.